All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another exciting edition of the High Spot Shoot Interview Series. Today we have a world traveler, the Golden Boy, Chic Donovan.
Well, I'd just like to thank you very much for having me. It's quite a pleasure and a combination of a 33, 34-year career right here at High Spot. You couldn't be a better place. And today we had a great autograph session, and just wonderful to be here.
Well, we appreciate you having you here. We want to start off same way we start off pretty much all of our interviews. Mm-hmm. What is your earliest memory of wrestling in your life?
Well, answered an ad in the paper in Macon, Georgia, when I was a fireman, and it's like to reiterate about being a fireman. We were able to start. I was able to be on the ground floor of creating the EMS program in Georgia, which I'm really excited about. I have been able to be on the foundation of that program, which now has evolved to paramedics, and just incredible from where we started in the very beginning. Mm-hmm. But I answered the ad that came out in one of the Macon papers, and I was about 120 pounds. But I always loved athletics, and I said, gosh, I saw it on TV once or twice, but I originally saw Gorgeous George when we first got out of TV. Gorgeous George, the senior, in 1951. We got a nice Zenith 21-inch TV. Could you imagine? In 1951, it was awesome. And we had that TV through the 60s, at my granddad's house. But I saw him on a thing with all his flamboyancy, but answered the ad in the paper and went down and talked to the guys, and we started training. Like I said, I was about 120 pounds. I hadn't even be smoking cigarettes at the time, and so I quit smoking and I started eating and started training, really stressing on the weight training, and put 100 pounds on in about a year's time. And within that period of time, we were working small matches here and there and getting a lot of experience. And Grady Odom was the individual that started the school there in Macon, and a lot of other folks. It really helped me along in my career as we were beginning, and learning how to put the ring up and take the ring down and do all the stuff on the bottom to earn respect. Anything you got to do, you got to earn respect for it, for it to really mean something. And that's what I'm trying to do now with the kids, is to teach them respect in the ring of the old school, and have respect of their peers in the dressing room. Because when I first started, we weren't even allowed to speak unless we were spoken to, because we hadn't earned that respect or that right yet. And Stan Hansen and some of the other guys, they beat us out. They beat it into us, the respect. But to go back, we started there in Macon, and I think I was still a fireman at the time, so I worked with the WCW, or Georgia Championship Wrestling, for about 4 years until I guess about 1980, and then decided probably it was a good thing or a bad thing to quit the fire department, which I loved, being able to teach, because I'm basically a teacher. I've taught high school, and I love teaching different sports and golf and whatever. But as a fireman, I was able to be on stage, as a realistic stage. With God's help, we were able to save lives and bring people back from biological deaths. And in fact, I was nominated Fireman of the Year once for helping save a baby with the Lord's help, of course. But I love that, being able to go into schools and teach about fire prevention and just teach about life to the kids. But it was just a job I just tremendously loved, but I had to make a decision whether give that up and go on the road full time, because at that time you could wrestle a lot of different places. There was Kansas City, there was North Carolina, there was two territories in Texas, there were 2 in Florida. There were just small territories all over the country where you could go work and make a living. But Wrestling 2 grabbed me up by the collar one day and said, "Look in that dressing room, boy, don't you dare quit your job." But being thick-headed as I am, I listened, but I didn't take heed. So I went ahead and left the fire department and went on the road. And it was a hard time on the road, but it was a fun time. In Knoxville, Tennessee, I remember, Larry Spot, I forget, and one of the assassins, not the original assassin, but one of the assassins after Jody. We were in a 74 Pinto station wagon of mine. They were well over 300 pounds, and I was 220 or whatever at the time. We were putting up the hills of Tennessee, going to Johnson City and all this, and the smoke and the water coming out the front of the car where I'd banged in a little accident. You can just imagine. Almost had to push it up a hill and let it coast down the other side and starving to death. But we were on the road wrestling, though, and that's, big time wrestling. And getting those $25, $30, $40 payoffs, but Louis Tillett was the booker there in Knoxville, and I learned a lot from him on how to book shows and how to do finishes and how to put things together. But try to learn everywhere you go, and from everybody you see at the gym, I watch everybody who's working out say, wow, I saw some new stuff yesterday at the gym, and find out about it and put that into my repertoire of teaching and doing myself. But I try to learn from everyone, and learned a lot from Louis Tillett. But then after Knoxville, I think it went on to California.
Okay, I wanted to stop for just a second.
Okay.
I don't want to interrupt you or anything, but we go back to when you were training in Macon.
Yeah, okay.
Who were some of the people that were there in the training?
Well, the first day I started was trying to think of his work name. Keith Ramage is his real name. Steinborn, Keith Steinborn is what he wrestles by. He wrestles still now occasionally on and off, but he hasn't come by heart attacks and not able to to perform as he used to. But he was a really good. Okay, Joe. I remember Joe. What was his last name? I can't think now. Joe Powell. He did a thing that got over so strong in the wrestling world that was phenomenal. He loved, or he admired wrestling too so much that he could do every motion, everything. He was built like wrestling too, and he had the clothes like wrestling too, and he could roll that robe up the same as Two did when he was announced in the ring. So he learned it to perfection. So Ole was booking, I think Ole was booking in Atlanta, and he got wind of Joe. And so we went up, and he saw what Joe could do. So Barnett, Mr. Barnett, thank you, sir, for paying us well in Georgia at that time. I had some pretty good paychecks, and he was real, I guess, he was real good with the money, a lot more than I've seen some before. But anyway, Ole liked the gimmick that he's gonna do like wrestling too. So, and in the meantime, Jim Barnett was telling Ole, will you please get that wrestling 2 off of my TV? He's seen him so many years. Next week, Ole, please, will you get that Mr. Wrestling number 2 off of my TV? So the next week, Mr. Wrestling number 2 is gone, but Joe comes onto the scene. The following week, Ole, I ask you, please get that Mr. Wrestling number 2 off my TV. He wasn't smart to the gimmick. So Joe was so much like wrestling 2 that it was amazing. And they had this feud, and the 2 came on the next week, and Gordon said, well, 2, I really enjoyed your match last week on TV. And 2, what match? I wasn't here last week. And then Joe walks out, and they have a face-to-face confrontation. So that sells out Macon, it sells out Columbus, it sells out Augusta. It did the whole schmarge. But as a shoot interview, as much as I love wrestling number 2 and as much mentor he was to me, he didn't like it. He didn't like to have the imitation. I know one other don't like it either, but I didn't understand why. So he shot on the kid every night and tried to hurt him because he just didn't like the gimmick, I guess. But it sold out the houses. They didn't pay Joe what he should have made, but 2 made a lot of money with it for the time it was there. The only thing, Joe didn't have the stamina to really carry on a match like he should have, but he was so involved in doing all the moves that 2 had and all the things. But it was kind of a short-lived gimmick, but it was really interesting while it lasted.
Okay. You mentioned 2, and you mentioned Ole. Who were some of the other veterans at that time in the locker room?
Well, Ivan took a lot of time with me in the ring. He could have beat me up, and he should have it a couple of times. I remember in a match, I had him in an arm bar. No, he had me in an arm bar, and he started to reverse it, kick me off, and arm drag him. So next thing I knew, I reversed and I kicked him right in the ribs. Jumped up and kicked him right in the ribs. The gimmick is where you flip over and you kick him off and you come back and on. But I just snatched him right in the, but he should have just beat my brains out after that one. But he took time. And he was very gracious and took time to teach me the proper way to work a match and whatever. And I really appreciate Ivan. And today, he still comes to some of the Christian matches that we have and does some talking.
Okay.
Some other folks, to me, God, so many of them. Bruiser Brody, Ric Flair, and he and I, we traveled together. He was an inspiration. He is Mr. NWA and will be from now on, I think. He made the NWA, I think, great what it is. Wrestling 2 is another one. The list goes on and on. There's so many guys that inspired me through the years.
Okay. How were you treated in the locker room as a greenhorn at that point?
Well, in the beginning, we learned to listen. They tell you something, there's no comebacks. If a kid now trying to tell a kid something now, and he's got to come back. I ain't got time for him. You got to learn to listen. So you sit there and listen to what's going on, and you can learn something from that. And if one of the guys, like if I remember Stan would say hello, I say hello, and that was kind of the deal. And he got, he got friendly, but he gave me the lariat 3 or 4 times in a match, but knocked my head off, But you learn to respect, and you just teach you respect, and that's what it is in the locker room. And after a few years, then you're able to, come along and be one of the boys.
Okay. So in '80, that's when you quit being a firefighter and decided
went on the road full time. Yes, sir.
And you went straight to Knoxville from there.
To Knoxville, then to California, and just if some of the younger guys watch this DVD, I hope they do. I got a piece of advice. In California, they, like Ox was talking about tonight, they put me on the guy's shoulders, and they made a Gorgeous George kind of deal out of me, just grandeur, to the ring, because the guy really liked that show business. But when their bell rang, it died, because I couldn't follow that presentation. I couldn't follow that gimmick, because I didn't have the work skills. So I talked to the youngsters about, don't worry about a gimmick. Your work will dictate what you should be doing, or what you should be in the ring. Learn how to work first. Because if you can't follow your presentation or follow what you're trying to present, it doesn't go anywhere. It just dies. So learn how to work first, and then that work will dictate what type of wrestler, what situation you should be in.
So early in your career, you were doing the Golden Boy gimmick? Is that?
Well, actually, yes, sir. I started with the Golden Boy thing, which came from wrestling too. I'd wear matching shoestrings with the gold tights or whatever it may be, and wrestling too said you ought to be the Golden Boy. And since the only one was Arnold Skolin some years ago, so we made the Golden Boy Chic Donovan.
Now, was that pretty close to your personality?
Yeah, it was exactly what it was. Being a small heel in those days, blonde hair and a decent body, you could style and profile and get heat with the guy because his wife loved you. She liked that body, and you just look at the guy and smile at him and say, "Don't you wish you looked just like me?" I'm so pretty, I got to kiss myself. It's fun, and that's kind of an extension of who I was, not who I really was, but who I was in the ring. Because who I really was real shy and introverted, and when I played high school football, I couldn't say hello to a guy walking down the street. Because I just was really introverted. But wrestling got me out of that, and through the persona, I could create the character I always wanted to be. And it would just came naturally.
It seems like the case with a lot of people that
it wasn't
insecure, and then they come into wrestling, and
it wasn't a copy of anyone. It's just what I developed to be, what I always wanted to be. Was kind of a Clint Eastwood kind of thing, but just a flamboyancy, something that stood out because I was always so introverted through so many years.
Okay, like you said, you were in California.
Right.
How did that differ from the Tennessee area?
Well, California was the Olympic Auditorium, which is such a nostalgic building to be in. All the movies were played there. A lot of the same movies you watched back when you were in the same arena, the same ring. But it was a 20-foot ring. And wow, trying to catch a Mexican in a 20-foot ring doing the stuff, to me, I couldn't do it. I couldn't really do it efficiently enough as I should have because I couldn't follow that entrance. So, but I learned you have to use half the ring. And I had feuds with the Guerreros, Mando Guerrero and Chavo Guerrero, and Eddie Guerrero was now a little kid sitting in the ringside, or he was around there in the dressing room, but he was a preteen, I guess, at the time. Mm-hmm. Now, in comparison with Tennessee has a unique structure of its own. Jerry Lawler is probably one of the smartest guys in the business. There's 2 smart guys, really tremendously smart guy. He and Dusty Rhodes probably the 2 smartest. I got heat with both of them, for whatever, unintentionally, but somehow. But anyway, Tennessee had so many unusual type matches, and with Jimmy Hart, anything goes. It was so much fun there, and I kind of grew up in Tennessee, and I think came to fame in Tennessee.
Well, also on Tennessee, you were part of the first family there.
Yes, sir. And I was quite proud of being able to be with Jimmy Hart, the first family, Kevin Sullivan, Wayne Ferris, which went on to be Honky Tonk Man, and such a close friend of mine. I know in Texas where I couldn't walk the ring, they'd give me cortisone shots in the back, and then he'd have to pick me up and carry me out of the dressing room and lay me in the car, and then pick me up in the car and lay me at home and lay me in the bed at home. It'd be so much pain. It'd be so bad.
Now, you got a lot of TV time with the First Family and stuff like that. Now, I think didn't you initially you come in as a babyface to the Memphis territory?
Well, I think I came in as a heel with Tojo Yamamoto and Oneida and Fuji, I think, and then they switched me over to the First Family. But I was always a heel there.
Okay, because I clearly remember an interview segment where you gotten beaten up and you had stitches on your head and you're all depressed, almost like you're saying, I can't take this punishment, no, I'm going to pack up and I'm going to go home.
Well, you know.
And of course, you know, Jimmy came in and you went off with him.
Yeah.
Was there initial talks of like Jimmy saw you, Joe, and bring him with me? I could do something with him.
I got a brain poop now, as you could say, but I don't remember exactly that interview, but I remember switching over and going with Jimmy, and they did something.
I think you guys end up, because he kind of started calling his group of guys the First Family, and I think you ended up singing "We Are Family."
Yeah, we did.
On live television. So
yeah.
I always bring that up because it's quite a funny moment. You know?
Yeah, they gave me a chance to sprout my wings, I guess, as the golden boy in the First Family.
Now, was that something that, you know, Jerry Jarrett or Jerry Lawler was like, you know, we want to put you with Jimmy? I mean, this thing.
I assume that Lawler did it. I don't know for sure. You know, just follow instructions. You know, from whatever. But and it worked out. It was very successful.
Yeah, it seems like you went. You know, you were in the forefront. You got a lot of TV time.
Yeah.
You got some big high profile matches and stuff.
Mm-hmm. I got a lot of TV time in Atlanta even before that.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't featured, but I learned how to feature myself, and I teach a lot of guys. It doesn't really matter what the outcome is, but how you do the outcome, how you handle it with the how you handle yourself with the outcome. Now the TV people at TBS like me. I would always stand right next to the announcer when they announced me. They announced the other guy. I was standing right there next to the announcer, hugging him, kissing him on the head. They announced me, and I walked right to that hard camera. That gave me another 10, 15, 25 seconds of time that I didn't have on my own. And the TV camera liked me, so I'd do some boom, boom. I'd take a powder out, and they'd follow me outside of the ring. Then I'd get back in. Then we had to take care of business, do what I had to do. But as a good guy, as a lesson to maybe some of the youngsters, as a good guy, if the guy beats you, don't get up with your head down and feeling bad. Get up and just kick the rope, man. And the guy at the ringside would say, man, you almost had it. If you just had another minute, you would have beaten him. But if you walk out with your head down, he said, that man just beat your butt, boy. Get on back out of here. Mm-hmm. Now, as a heel or a bad guy, a heel never loses. He only beats himself. But a heel never loses in the fact that I style out the same way I style in, and that's all they remember. So it doesn't matter. You just still the greatest thing that ever walked down the street of Memphis, Tennessee, when you leave that room, and that's what they remember. Remember you walk in, and remember you walk out, as a main thing they remember. So it's how you handle yourself. You I think win with humility and lose with grace, and so it doesn't matter. It's the attitudes that really matter. Same now. I was teaching high school. It's all about attitudes. You're teaching youngsters in the ring how to wrestle. If they got an attitude, I ain't got time for them. You know, go on. You know, but if they got a great attitude. Now, when I moved to LaGrange, I didn't have much money. I had a little money, but I had a great attitude and a good work ethic. So the top guy helped me build a gym, and I got started in the gym business, and I was able to make good money. And I helped the guy on the street picking up cans for a living. I'd buy this, that, and I'd take care of those guys, and they'd bring me love gifts, which is phenomenal. Little pieces of paper, a golf ball they find on the side of the road, or just, it doesn't matter, just a love gift. The honey from the government line. Oh, phenomenal. That's priceless. The top guy helped me, and I helped the bottom guys. And it's just a priceless way to live, I think. Just peace of mind is all we look for in life. And that certainly gave me peace of mind.
Okay, I want to head back to California for a second.
Okay.
You met John Tolos there.
The Golden Greek. He and I rode together a lot. We conversed. You know, for a long time I was kind of thick. You know, I listened, but I didn't really sink into the great Malenko. Got it in my head one time, but yeah, he was just a great guy. He just an incredible man, incredible professional. Just carried himself with such style and. Yeah, I just could say enough about
so you consider him a mentor?
Oh, yeah, tremendous mentor. Tremendous.
Okay, you were telling me the other day a story about Mondo Guerrero and how
Yeah,
was he to work
we
with?
were in San Jose, California, and Bockwinkel, not Nick Bockwinkel, but I think his one of the relatives, Bockwinkel, was a referee. We were having a match, boom, 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 boom. Next thing we ended in a boxing match. Boom, little fist, boom, I hit him and cut him. And the referee, I didn't know enough how to handle it, so I was having fun. And Bockwinkel said, go, go, go. So well, he hit me, broke my nose, and that's fun, man. And I hit him, I cut him. His face was cut all to pieces, and I was still having fun. I thought it was a good deal. The next thing I knew, I felt his finger behind my eyeball. I was thinking to myself, there must be something to this. We better, finish this now, I guess, But it took me about 3 months before I could see really good again in that California sun.
Did you have any other similar situations like that?
We talked about something on the phone that came, but I don't really know. I just kind of go with the flow. If a guy wants to work, I was in Japan, Jumbo Schroeder, want to get a little stiff. Heck, I can go right with him. Another one, Ronnie Garvin could be the toughest son of a gun in the ring I've ever seen and ever been in there with. Or he could be nice and easy, but a couple of times he was in there tough, boom, boom, I stayed with him. He put a sugar on me. I thought he was fixing to kill me. A sugar hole is the most devastating hole in the business, but no, he just had his attitudes, I guess. One day he's good, one day he's whatever. But, I just kind of always went with the flow.
Okay. In '81, you moved to Louisiana. Would you like to?
Louisiana, Bill Watts, one of the greatest Georgia champions ever was, I think. Just he loved the big guys. So now got close with Paul Ellering, which later became to manage the Road Warriors. In fact, he ripped his pec off at that time. It was in a gym, Fox's gym in Louisiana, that he just ripped his whole pec off. He got too strong for his connective tissues. They were making Junkyard Dog at the time. Sylvester and I got to be real close friends, which he's now passed away a few years ago in a car accident. And he and I were real close. I met Jake the Snake Roberts to go down the line, and a little bit about Jake was probably the most instrumental person in my career in a way, and I'll tell you about that in a positive way, through a negative situation. But great talent, this kid, Jake the Snake. Just a heel, good guy, didn't matter. He on top of one of the most fabulous talkers in the business. Just a natural in the ring. Never worked out or whatever very much, but just phenomenal athlete in the ring. Jimmy Garvin. Jimmy Garvin is one of the best I've ever seen in the dressing room. A lot of times as an underneath guy on TV, you get some guys, so I'm going to do this to you, I'm going to do that to you, I'm going to do this to you. Whatever, okay. Jimmy Garvin, a politician, he should have been a president. He'd come sit down. Son, what do you like to do, son? Well, I like to do this, that, and that. Well, that's good. I like to do this and whatever. So you go in the ring, and he still, you've got to do what you got to do to get over when you go to one of those TVs. So he goes out and does what he's got to do to get over. You get back. So, well, we just didn't have time to do that. I'm sorry. Next time we'll get it in. Thank you, thank you, love you, whatever. So I just thought that was showing so much respect. Where some guys didn't have any respect because they thought what they read in the magazine, what they saw on the label, what they had on their belt made them something bigger than life. No, it don't mean nothing. It's what's in here that counts. And he had a lot of respect for all the boys. And some guys, until you learn that they're just between magazines and who you really are, there's a problem. You have to learn how to deal with that. And you got to learn how to win. You got to learn how to lose, even in real life and everything. Like I said, you win with grace and then lose with humility, or vice versa.
Okay. You were only in Louisiana for a short time. Is there any reason for that?
Well, yeah, I was working, and what was that? Jerry Jarrett gave me a call to come to Memphis. And so I went to Memphis, and that's when we got into the first family thing. Now I went back to Memphis again in '85 when I finished up in Tampa.
How did you originally get your job in Memphis? Was there?
Well, I had a match with Tommy Rich on the air.
Was that in Georgia?
On Georgia, yeah. I mean, one time I shouldn't even mention that one, but anyway, I had Red Shoes Dugan refereed the matches in California, and he's a guy who refereed Gordon's Georgia matches, and he was a police officer then, but retired when I got there, 30 years later, whenever it was, 20 years later. And he said, always wear all your gimmicks. Sometimes you think, should I do this? Should I wear this? Should I do this? And he said, always wear all your gimmicks. You don't know who's watching. So I just, the glasses, all the stuff, and when you unrobing yourself, you got TV time. But anyway, Jerry Jarrett saw us have a match and thought I was going to do a deal on going to have a big program with Rich, and he liked what he saw, so he called me up and came in to Memphis. So Rich, she's doing. I always remember what he told me. Always wear all your stuff. You don't know who's watching.
Okay. Who were your the people you would hang around with in Memphis?
Well, Kevin Sullivan. Yeah, he and I roomed together. The second time was Pat Tanaka. We roomed together the second time I was there. A tremendous young man whose father owned the auditorium, the sportatorium there in Tampa. Great athlete, great worker. Jimmy Hart, we at his house frequently. Wayne Ferris, we became good friends. Even better though when we on down the road in Texas, we became even closer friends. Oh, Coco Beware. He did a favor for me in my first match in Memphis. He made me better than I was at that time.
Okay.
And I always loved Coco.
Okay. Shortly into your Memphis career, you had was it a knee injury?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, it was a severe knee injury that, I think it was cause for one thing or another, and it set my career way back. I didn't get a chance to make my run with Lawler. That's what everybody wanted to make, that run with Lawler. That's where the money was at in Memphis. I guess I could reiterate it, that I was born in a Christian home. I knew the right from wrong and the right things I should be doing, but a lot of times when you get into a situation, abnormal stuff becomes normal. When abnormalities are normal, then you can really go off way away from what you know to be right. And I think the Lord just took my leg away. He said, if we can't handle this, we ain't going no further. So boom, it's a finish. Because really, I got whacked or whatever, but it was like all of a sudden, wow. In a match, I went to beat up a guy and he just disintegrated. And I think that was just a strike from heaven.
Okay.
To be honest with you.
How long were you out with that?
I was out. Well, I worked on it. I worked on it every night for a while, but then I had to get it casted, and I became a manager there in Memphis. Okay. And but I watched somebody else walk the aisle in my spot, and it was really awakening. It was awakening. I said, "Wow."
Okay. It was
I knew it was all about. I didn't have to tell me. Mm-hmm. I've already told you what it was about, and I knew it was. I just knew it was, and I, just thick-headed. We all thick-headed to really get understanding what things are really about.
Okay, it's also about this time that you met Pebbles.
Well, we met in 1982, and Scott Irwin got us together, and he's the first guy. I took one of the first superplexes, I think, from him in the ring, which was a phenomenal move in those days. Off the top rope, that standing suplex off the top rope, man, just felt like forever hitting the floor. But he was so fast in the ring that, anyway, we became real close friends in time, and he introduced me to Pebbles. And we ended up getting married, and we have a son, 15 now. And she loved the business, but we were together. Like I said, we traveled together, and the second time we were in Florida, they made me the world champion there, and then she got with me and was valeting some there, and then we went back to Georgia, and with Joe Pedicino in the World of Wrestling, she was with me there, and we was kind of like the Elizabeth Randy Savage thing, the heel babyface thing, because I grabbed her by the hair across the screen and it automatically turned to babyface. Then they had a replace Pebbles contest. The girls would write in and want to be my way to take her spot. And in the ring, we'd walk out. The only time I actually got to walk in front of her and put her behind me. In real life, it wasn't that way. It was the other way around. So now I got to be the big guy, right? And go to the ring, and I just yell, if you don't would do whatever, if you don't sell 15 pictures in the next 10 minutes, I'm going to whack you or something. Not that, but whatever it was. So she'd go sell the pictures, right? And she was real strong as a baby face. And she was a good talker. She could interview well. And she had the face and that really the camera drew from.
Okay, was she already in the business when
No,
you
she
got together?
wasn't. She and her first husband used to go to Carrollton, and she'd take the kids, and she loved the wrestling. And she would go frequently with the kids to the Omni and whatever. But so she knew a lot of the guys, and but then we hooked up and we got married, and we're on the road together.
After your injury in Memphis and everything, after that you went to Japan?
During WCW, Stan Hansen got me booked in Japan. So Old Pro with Old Pro, I think it was called, in Tokyo, with the Giant Baba, and that was exciting. I didn't really understand how much it really meant at the time. I do now, in retrospect, thinking back, how important those matches were, especially the first one. We got there. We got there during the day because jet lag and everything was there, and had to go right into the ring shortly after our press release. But I didn't understand how important that match was. I heard Ted DiBiase talking that he had a match with Jumbo Shiruda, which was the top babyface there, and he was talking about how important that match was. But I heard him talking, but it just didn't sink in. And now it has. I understand now. But at that time, it was an okay match, but it should have been a lot better, I think. I think I should have performed better in Japan than I did. I learned a lot, probably a lot of stuff maybe not to do sometimes, but Stan got me there, and I had a wonderful time for a couple of weeks, and it was a great experience.
Okay.
Now, also, like, a lot of times Japan's is more of a sport than it is. It seems like your gimmick was a lot of entertainment, and the Japanese people, how did they react to you as a wrestler? It wasn't probably, it had to be different. But how did they react? Was it
they loved it. They loved that. Yeah, even and they have the record books of win and loss records there in Japan of wrestling, as they do in baseball or football. So, and we'd go into the gyms and train. Kerry and I were there together, and we'd always go in, and they loved giving presentos. But they like big guys. They were especially people like Stan Hansen. He'd beat them up the ropes, and they'd love it with his whip gimmick, his lariat. But we'd go in the gym and put a whole bunch of little weights on, like we had a whole bunch of, boom, and actually we just entertain it. And they go, "Ooh, we got Gene," and they bring you presentos, but it was quite a time. It was just, in fact, I had my first acupuncture in Japan. I got whacked in the mouth, had a banged tooth, whatever, and I had to go do a root canal on it, and with acupuncture, a little wire stuck in it, never felt it. So that was my first experience there with a Japanese dentist, and it was awesome.
How was going into the Japanese style? Was that different for you, or did it?
Like I said, I'm like natural selection, they call it in biology. I kind of go with the flow. I can live in a tree, or I can live in the desert. I just kind of go with it and just follow. I was able to. I worked with so many of the greats through the years. I was able to adapt my style to their style. Mm-hmm. Now, sometimes I dictate in the ring now, and they adapt themselves to me. But I was always able to adapt. I could follow. I had just, I guess, the natural instinct to do that. So it was okay. It didn't flying through the ropes and different stuff it wasn't anything real unusual. I just kind of followed what they were doing.
And how long were you over there?
We did I guess 2-week tour, 3 or 4 week tour.
Okay, you also spent some time in the Middle East.
Middle East was wonderful. The Persian Gulf, lay in the sun from 12 hours a day, from 8 to 8, and then have to wrestle to 10 because it didn't get dark at that time. But we'd met a lot of nice people there and bought a bunch of gold and whatever, because gold was pretty cheap there. And the guys there really loved my gimmick. I did the male strip gimmick with this pull-off pant, and they said, "Ooh!" They followed us, run us down the highway to the hotel. They really enjoyed it. But a lot of good, tremendous wrestlers from England, and the European guys were awesome wrestlers. You had to be able to wrestle to stay with them in the ring. Like Bob Charles, and I know Les Thornton, the junior heavyweight champion at one time. You had to wrestle those guys. It was tough. So you learn all the different styles. And I was there with Bill Eadie, and Blackjack Mulligan was there, one of the Americans there, and he knocked me out in the ring once. I was stupid. Boom. It was good. Thank you. But I had a good time.
I've heard stories from the Middle East that there were a lot of fighting with like the fans and stuff, like Blackjack and Bill Eadie.
Much or something like that.
Well, I never saw any of that. Of course, I'm so focused there as far as in the ring goes. I hear, but I don't really know what's going on outside of what I'm listening to. But I didn't see now in Puerto Rico now. There's a lot of whatever going on. A lot of throwing rocks and.
Where all were you in the Middle East? And
now, sir.
Where all were you in the Middle East? And
we were based out of Abu Dhabi. The guy calls an hour before the plane leaves. Let's go to Abu Dhabi. All right. Get your stuff together. I didn't go to the airport and leave in an hour, taking off and going. It's kind of neat. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. Saw a single humpback camel there in the desert. You know, it was pretty cool. But it's a beautiful place. All the vegetation and stuff that they have to import all the trees and everything because it's all desert, of course. And it's hot. It doesn't grow anything, so they had to bring it in. But it's a beautiful place. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And the islands now, I've been out of Tampa. We visited all the Caribbean islands. That was a lot of fun because I'd been there when I was in the Navy. When I got out of high school, I signed up and went to the United States Navy and then went to a lot of the islands there in the Bahamas.
Okay, you've also mentioned you were in the Navy and you were a firefighter and you did athletics all your life. Did that help out a lot as far as when you went into the wrestling?
Well, discipline. You learn a certain discipline you have to have in any sport or anything of life. You have to be disciplined, and I think that a big influence of respect that you learn through sports for everybody. If you like them or not, you still have to respect. You still respect them.
Mm-hmm. Okay. After this point, you began to work for Ray Gunkle for a short period.
And Gunkle, she was such a sweet lady. She ended up dying with, I think, cancer later on after we disbanded the Gunkle Enterprise era. Randy Rose was there. He's here today doing interviews, doing autograph sessions. But a lot of the guys were there. We had a good time. It was a good group. Tommy Rich was there. Crazy Luke Graham was there. In fact, that reminds me of when my first show I was on, Lou Thez was wrestling Crazy Luke Graham. And Lou Thez was one of the greatest, probably next to Jack Briscoe, or even with Jack Briscoe as a wrestling champion. And then I had the opportunity with Ray Gunkle Enterprises, or Ann Gunkle Enterprises, for him to commentate a match I had. So I did a lot of wrestling, takedowns, boom, 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 so he could relate to what I was doing and really do a lot of commentating with it. So, all those experiences were great.
Okay. After that, it looks like you went to World Class. You had an interesting story on how you got with them.
Yeah, World Class. Guy calls Gordon Soley at TBS, and he wants me to come to the circus. I said, shoot, man, and it starts in Yuma. So Gordon came to me, said he wanted to go to the circus, gave me a guarantee. So Pebbles and I packed up a car and sold one of them, packed up one, headed out to Yuma, Arizona. But on the way there, we stopped in San Antonio, and at the matches, just happened to stop by. The Monarchs were there, and I talked to Kerry. I didn't really know Kerry that well, but we had some rapport. And so he hired me to come in 2 months later. And so I went on to Yuma, and we got in the circus, and I had to wrestle. It was Mr. Vargas. It was Vargas Brothers Circus, so I had a big V on a mask, a gold mask, and I used my gold cape. And we, after the circus events were over, then we had the wrestling in the middle ring. And you had to look out for the elephant stuff, so you allowed to be taking a bump in it. But it was right there in the center ring. But you'd have had a ringer in the crowd, and they'd give you $1,000 if the guy beat you. So anyway, the guy comes down. We have a match every night. But the interesting thing about it was that the circus performers, as talented as they were, they all came around and watched that match. They really enjoyed the wrestling part of the affair. And a little kid named Petey, a little midget, which a lot of people may have seen him in the movies, picks up a bucket of rocks with his fish hook in his tongue, and had a guy who swallowed swords, and boy, that's real. He swallowed 5 swords, right down the gimmick, man. Then they put my wife in a box, but they put the 15 blades in, and she called her the rubber lady. She had to swivel all around in some kind of way. It's an illusion of some sort, but it's pretty cool. But that was a fun time for a couple months on the set there with those guys, and we picked up. I never even mentioned to you, but it was national news that one of the clowns gave us a little puppy. He was 2 months old. His mom and dad, or his mom or his parents, were circus performers. They would jump through fire. They were terriers, but they'd jump through fire and jump up on the things and do all kind of tricks with balls and whatever. And they thought his legs were too short. So we named him Chaz, and we took him at 2 weeks, and he looked just like her fox fur coat. Anyway, it was a pretty little thing, and she wasn't supposed to be able to get pregnant because of her previous cancer she had. So he was like a child we couldn't have. He would tuck her in at night. He was just like, and come to find out, he could read. He could have. We had conversations with Chaz, not to get too much because people think you're crazy, but you know. And in Texas though, he'd come to the matches and the pictures of the kids, but you could sit and have Chaz and just talk to him like you and I talking. He was speaking syllables like. I remember synthesizer, that word particular, because the guy said, well, I'll give you the radio if you'll read that box. He said, AM, FM synthesizer, and it was just that plain. But he could talk, and then he started reading the magazines. And the doctor came in the office one day, he was sitting on his thing, and he said, hello, Dr. Crawford, read his name tag. And on the way over, this guy, we stopped at a U-Haul place to get something fixed, and Chaz read the guy's hat. He had L.A., and I had M.O., and he said Montana. He didn't say Mo, he said Montana, whatever the name of the company was. And he said, hey, Bill, this dog, he just read my hat. Hey, he just read my hat. He couldn't believe it. This dog, you know, he was a special. Anyway, he ended up getting kidnapped. And it got to John and what was that show, big show, 103, that John Boy and Billy show. It's all over, it's nationally certified, whatever. And it was so nationally known everywhere I went. I don't care where I went. Did you get your dog back? But somebody finally brought it back. I guess because they got scared, you know. But brought it back to us. But yeah, he was quite a treat. And finally, after 20 years or something, he finally passed away. But he'd work for Apples. He worked with the kids at the arenas and whatever. But he knew all the nursery rhymes, like Mary Had a Little Lamb, and Jack and Jill went up the hill, and he'd get a little tear in his eye when Jack fell down and broke his crown. But he had like human eyes. He could see what color you got on. You got on yellow, blue, whatever. You know, it's like a crazy story. But you know, I didn't even mention it in the years. But we were in the room. King Parsons was there. He said, "Hello, King Parsons." He fell out on the floor. He couldn't believe the dog was talking. We thought it was something, you know, going on here. But anyway, remember that we got him from the circus, and that was quite a trip. Then we went back to Dallas, get back into a mode here, and. Met a lot of great people in Dallas. So the Bonnick family, they treated me so well, and just an unfortunate situation that they've all passed away, except for Kevin. Kevin was a really giving individual. He was a great guy, and Kerry was the outgoing, the big spoken, the athlete, the big athlete of the group. But Kevin was the real, I think, the real deal of the family. And we had a lot of great matches there. And I worked with the Freebirds. I worked with. I just saw a match the other day. Somebody selling a DVD of mine. I didn't know anything about it, but one of the guys I worked for in Fort Valley, Mike Money. Thank God, Mike Money trains a lot of kids. If it went for Mike Money, he's got the longest running independent show in the country, weekly show. And a lot of kids that can never wrestle anywhere, he has them there in that arena. Don't draw many people, but he has the other guys come in occasionally. But anyway, Mike Money's a great guy. He bought one of the DVDs, and I sat at his house and watched it the other night. And had about 10 or 12 matches. I don't know who copped him, whatever, but that World Class was on there. It was pretty cool. Okay, I forgot where I'm going now.
I've had a lot of questions about the Parade of Champions match with Butch Reed.
Yeah, the tribute to David passed away in Japan. Let me get back up a second while I'm thinking about it. We met these two kids, a girl that sang at Texas Stadium. She and her brother were on a Johnny High show, which is a country western show, every week there in Fort Worth. We'd go and watch them, and then they were good friends with Willie. They were on the road with Willie, so Willie invited my wife and I to one of his concerts. I had knee surgery, so I was out of commission. So we went to one of the concerts there at Billy Bob's in Fort Worth, and Willie's on stage, not liking country music too well, but I learned to like it, I guess, because it was awesome. But he was playing that guitar with a big old hole in the bottom and just beating the heck out of it. In the middle of a song, he gets it, puts it down, walks backstage. We're on the wings. I'm right next to the guy who's playing the harmonica. Awesome guy, what talent. But anyway, he reaches out, shakes my hand, looks me in the eye, never said a word, but it was an admiration from one performer to the other because he really liked wrestling. But we shook hands, and it was almost electrical feeling, me and Willie, and just an admiration. And we shook hands, he turned and walked back, picked up, started playing. Now tell me where we're at going back.
Okay, that brings up an interesting point. Do you feel like in that era there was more respect in the other industries of entertainment than there are now? It seems like wrestling's kind of like a joke a little bit. You feel like back in the 80s?
Well, wrestling was so strong that was it WCW? It wasn't WCW, but it was world class wrestling. They were so strong. When I had knee surgery, I went to the hospital, said I need to get fixed. I was in the military. They never asked me for a DD-214. They asked me for anything. They even asked for an ID card. Took me in, did the knee surgery, and we did the interviews in the hospital, and I worked out in the hospital bed in the sun in the wheelchair and whatever. But the TV was really strong there, so it had a lot of influence. You couldn't hardly go on the street without being mobbed. But I don't know if that's answering your question, but it had a lot of influence on the country because that TV was so strong. It made, when I worked out in Marietta with Jim Hellwig, Weeder called him to come to California to bodybuild. The biggest guy I've ever seen, 265 on stage ripped, probably 285 off stage. I mean, symmetric, I'll tell you who he is in a minute, just huge. So he asked me, should he go to California? He was going to chiropractic school. I said, yeah, you don't get one chance, go. But Weeder left him on the street broke. And then Red Bastien in California trained him to wrestle. And he put him with Sting, and they were called the Blade Runners. His name was Jim Hellwig. And then later he called me, they went to Memphis. He called me and said, am I making the right money? I'm doing this, that, and the other. Then he went to Louisiana and said, am I doing right or wrong, whatever, asking advice. And then Sting got sick, so Sting was on the sideline. Jim was by himself. And then he called me one day and said, should I go to Texas? I said, yeah, by all means, get on that national TV. So he went to Texas, became a Dingo Warrior, and boom, right to New York. First time they saw him. And he became a millionaire and never called me since. But he was such a nice guy to train with and to work with, and that was just another story that... well, let me tell you another story. When I'm thinking about stories.
Right ahead.
The best story, and a joke, I like the joke I thought about the only way over here, but I think the best story I got in wrestling was that I was in an airport somewhere, waiting on a plane, and a little blonde-headed girl, real pretty little girl sitting next to me, and a lady, older lady, sitting across from me. She's probably my age now, in the 60s, whatever, but, and the little girl looks I had a tight T-shirt on, the hair was longer. She looked at the front of me with a strange look, and she looked at the back of me, inquisitive thinking. She looked at the front, looked at the back, and got up and sat across the aisle next to the lady. I said, ma'am, is that your granddaughter? She sure is pretty. And the lady and the little girl looked at, she said, yes, it is. And the little girl looked at Granny and said, Granny, that lady talks awful funny. To me, that was just an incredible story. A joke I heard, we were wrestling out of Texas down in Laredo, El Laredo, right across this bridge, the Rio Grande River. As a joke, somebody said, I thought it was just cute as heck. It was a kid going back across the border on bicycle with these bales of rice on his bicycle, going back across the border there. Every day he'd come ride a bike with the rice on across the border, and they would search it out. They knew he was smuggling something, but they never could find anything. And a few days later, one of the officers at the gate saw the little kid in the store, and he asked the kid, son, I know you're smuggling something. Just please tell me what it was. He said, sir, it was bicycles. Whatever. I just thought that was kind of a cute joke, but...
Okay, I want to get back to the Parade of Champions,
okay.
Bush Reed.
Oh, yeah, Bush Reed. Yeah, that was that's Texas Stadium, if I get off and keep it back on the point, goes back to the third grade, and I was such an avid athlete and playing football and whatever. I was kind of a tough kid. Take a lot of bumps and whatever, hit a lot of folks in football. But anyway, we had at our class deal, we had at the end of the third grade, we had a crystal ball, and one guy would come up or a girl would come up, they'd do the gimmick and say, yeah, you're going to be so and so at the end of, when you grow up. They did me, boom, boom. You're going to be in Yankee Stadium when you grow up, and as an athlete. But not unbeknownst to me, ended up being Texas Stadium. As a wrestler, so I just thought the crystal ball came through. It's a lot of years later, but anyway, back to the Parade of Champions. The young girl I was speaking of, she sang the invocation, or sang the Star Spangled Banner, and just bring a tear to your eye. It wasn't Star Spangled Banner; it was another song that just make you cry when you hear her sing.
America the Beautiful or something.
Yeah, but it was that day. It was really hot in the ring. It was it was on the 30-yard line, and the whole Texas Stadium, the sun beating down on the ring. Must have been 130 degrees. It was so hot in there. I remember Kelly Kanisti got his nose broken in the first match, but that was a thrill. Walking out to that ring with 50,000 people, that Chic, go, Chic. I mean, because that TV got us over pretty strong, you know, the Garvins and everybody. And Chris Adams was a big, not a mentor, but a good friend of mine. But it was just quite a thrill to walk in the ring amongst that many people. And I remember calling Randy Savage on the phone after the first WrestleMania. There were 93,000 people there in Pontiac, Michigan. I guess it's Pontiac, but at Detroit, wherever. And I said, Savage, that must have been awesome. I bet Hogan must have made at least $1 million. He said, yeah, he made 3 or 4. But he said it was unreal figuring that many people. And I had about half that many at Texas Stadium, so I can imagine twice that many. You know what a just enormous experience that was, just to be able to be in that situation.
Okay, you were also there in Texas about the same time as a lot of the tragedy started to happen. And how was that in the whole aura of the surrounding?
Well, sometimes when you have too much freedom, things don't mean a whole lot. You know, you have everything in the world, but it doesn't mean anything really to you. And I remember on the plane one time, Michael was, I guess he was so messed up that he tried to walk out of the plane, tried to undo the door, and they had to lead him back to his seat. And that was kind of the MO from Chris, the youngster, used to drive us, me and my wife, in the van when he was, I guess, a teenager. He ended up getting in the business later on, but that was kind of the MO of the whole family, except for Kevin. He was almost isolated from the rest of them, but it's just too much. They would just put a cat in Mama's microwave till it blew up. I mean, just too much, and where things didn't have any value. There's no value, so anything went.
Mm-hmm. So did you get along with the family?
Oh, they treated me like gold. We spent time at their home. We spent time together. Carrie and I went to Japan together. I was taking care of a young lady in my house, baby, father gone somewhere, and found out about Kevin. Now, I didn't know about Kevin so much. He was quiet. But he gave a young girl, and I was trying to help this girl out, so he gave her a job in the matches and gave her a few bucks to get her going. And that's trying to find out that Kevin is the real deal out of the whole family, I think. He's one with a real heart. Carrie was the one that was all the big good guy kind of thing, but Kevin was the real deal, and he's still around.
Do you think
the Lord blessed him.
You think most of that was just because they had everything pretty much handed to them?
Like I said, I think just nothing had any value. Mm-hmm. Nothing had any meaning. It's just whatever. And it's just a tragedy. And it must be a gene. I was in the paramedics and worked in the hospitals throughout, a lot of different stuff, in mental hospitals and whatever. And I think that type of death must just have some type of gene to go through that whole family like it did. And it leaves whomever's left with no finish. You could be in a car wreck and there's a finish. But a self-inflicted deal is no finish for the family. What could we have done to stop it? What could we have done to do better? I got at work, I've got a lady I love to death, her son, same thing. There's no finish. And it's just tragic.
Well, not just the Von Erich family. There were a lot of people that had several other deaths.
Eddie Graham, he had to shoot himself twice. He's a tough guy. I don't know. It seemed like some people are on top of the world, but they have no world at all. Because I don't think they have the Lord in their heart. And when you lose the word, hope is the biggest word in the country, in the world, is hope. Without hope, there is nothing left. And when there's nothing left, you turn to any kind of thing to mask whatever it may be the situation. And if that don't work, boom, it's suicide. But you got to always have hope. And that's the job of a babyface in the ring. It's the same thing. Life and wrestling is all the same thing. A match is the conception of an individual, conception of a child, how he grows up, his good times, bad times, all the things he goes through is what you protect in the ring, and then what happens in the end. Good, bad, or indifferent. But it's all about life, and you go through all those phases of life, action, reaction, the phases of life, and But you got to always keep that hope. You got to keep the babyface fans. Got to have hope. This kid is not going to die in the ring, or not physically, but well, maybe sometimes it happens. But he gives them hope. Always selling with hope. So they're right there. I know he's going to get it now. I know, and they get right about here, then they snatch him back down. Look what I just did to your boy. But he always gives them hope. There's going to be a future, better in the end. So they're always right there, waiting for that better to happen. But hope is a very important word for anybody who wants to never lose sight of hope. I had a TV show in LaGrange, and had one of my dear friends on. He was blown up in Vietnam. Of course, I went through the Vietnam thing too, but he blew his legs off and all. And he mentioned that word hope, and it just stood out in my mind. God, the word hope is so strong, so meaningful, that I've never forgot that interview we had, and he said hope, and it just stuck with me ever since. So people never give up hope. It's always going to be better the next day.
You had a big feud with Skandor Akbar. Do you want to care to?
I did. He was managing Killer Khan, which was a great big athlete from Mongolia, just tough as nails, and just. Can't say too much about this guy's athleticism. My knee had been injured as we spoke earlier, but he just ravaged, and to the point where I had to have surgery. Skandor led him through that, and was actually the instrument used for him to do the deeds he did in the ring, because he was a little deranged. So when I got out of the hospital, I came back, and then Skandor Akbar and I had kind of a feud. And I was helped out a lot with Terry Gordy. Helped me out a lot, and Terry Gordy had a tragic ending. But Terry Gordy was one of the greatest athletes ever in the ring. But we had a feud there in Dallas, and went through that, and Dallas was just a wonderful experience from top to bottom. Excuse me. The people took us in like we were family. They sent us presents to mail, make us robes, and just so many things. The fans were just awesome in Dallas, and it was just a wonderful time. And I never give anything for the experience we had there.
Okay. So after Texas, you went back to Georgia.
Yeah, I think you always go back home. And when you finish the place, you go back home. But I did spend a little time the last time in Georgia for a while, and I worked and heard about this group IWA, the International Wrestling Alliance, which formed in Tampa, and so we packed up and I went to Tampa. I talked to them. They hired me and got a little guarantee. Went in and some great matches. And Tiger Conway Jr. His dad was a great athlete. He was one of the guys there. Randy Rose, Doug Summers. God, there was so many guys in that group. Some that went on the WCW and WWF and whatever. But it was a great organization. We had some great matches. We worked all the different big arenas like we did with Tampa. We went to Miami. I went to just all the Ocala, all the major buildings we hit with IWA, and I was able to carry the IWA belt for the group, and that was quite an experience. But I had a hard time with it. I was working too hard. Back up a second. When I worked with the kids in Florida at the Chic Rodriguez Foundation, I loved golf. I played golf all my life, and Chic and I became real close friends, and he'd watch me hit golf balls, and he laughed at me because I was working way too hard at it. You got to loosen up. And he got me swinging where I hit the ball fluidly without so much tension. And when I was in the ring with the IWA belt, I'd working with the top guys, and the matches weren't going like I wanted. I had too much tension. I tried to dictate to the top baby faces been around for a long time, and it was too much tension. And Malenko and I had a talk one night back from the matches, and at that time I finally learned how to listen a little bit. And he said, "Yeah, about to make 30 minutes." Win the ring, and did exactly what he told me. From then on, it was no problem at all.
Do you feel like
loosened up? I said, and like with the guy, I'm all yours. Boom, 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 boom. Heck of a match from then on.
Do you feel like you were trying too hard because maybe they were giving you a larger role than some of the other places would?
I was wanting to have perfection. I'm a perfectionist, but I was trying too hard at it for talked about the golf thing. And I'll talk about that again in a minute. I got a good story on that one at the end of that one. But just trying too hard. You can't make things happen. You have to let them happen. If you let them happen, it ebb and flow, action, reaction. It just happens. As a pro of my age now and past years, everything just, you don't think about it, it just happens. If you relax and let it happen. You can't make it happen. I've had some important matches I thought I wanted to come out with a certain result, and I tried to make it happen, and it didn't. It was horrible. I said, you dummy, you know you got just to let it happen, and it'll flow. And same way in life, you just kind of gotta let it go, and it'll happen for you. And talk about Chic Rodriguez and the foundation. When I worked with the Bad and Abused kids, when I went back to Georgia the last time, I opened a gym and was working there at the gym, and this couple came in and sat down, wanted to get a membership, and we were talking, and golf came up. And this kid's 23, 24, and I don't know how golf came around, but anyway, I said, last time I played golf, when you taught me, I never seen the kid before. When I taught you, remember back at the foundation for Bad and Abused kids, and when the kids would smoke dope, whatever, at school, they'd kick them out and send them to the foundation and have schoolwork and stuff to do. And I'd help teach them play golf and do all the stuff. I did the maintenance and whatever. But anyway, I helped this kid learn how to play golf. And unbeknownst, 10 years later, he shows up at my gym in LaGrange, Georgia, wanting a membership. I bet fell out of the sheriff. Anyway, it's a small world, and that was just a life lesson. It was just a great story to me.
You said that was about around '86 that you opened the gym.
Yeah, right.
Was that when you opened the gym? Was that kind of you trying to get out of the business, maybe taking some time off?
I don't know. You have to get a job.
Yeah.
What kind of job can you get? Nobody wants to hire an athlete, a professional athlete. He's going to leave since somebody comes along and offers him a job, because how can a guy making $10,000 a week, month, whatever, work for $200? I train myself to do that, but that's beside the point. But it's hard to get a job. So anyway, you got to create something. Create something out of what do you know? I knew how to teach. I knew I knew the fitness business because I'd been doing it for so long. So I was able, with help and a lot of work, to get into the business, and made it grow and work, and just grew into a tremendous fitness center. And like I talked about before, I was able to help the underneath guys, and the top guys helped me. So it was really a good combination, a good way to manage your life, and it just worked really well that way. And it was real successful. And then through my own doings, wife, we ended up divorcing and whatever, and it kind of hurt it real bad.
Okay. It was around that same time as the gym. You were also working for Jerry Blackwell in Georgia? Yeah,
I was there at Blackwell, and I was doing a WCW thing, and then made some shots there for New York, for Vince. I remember Monday Night Raw in Huntington, Huntsville, Alabama, and a lot of shots for Vince throughout the years. And they always paid me pretty good. And then working with Jerry. Jerry was quite an individual. 300-400 pounder to do a drop kick. That was his kind of claim to fame back in Minnesota. But he was a great guy to work for. Bruiser Brody was there, another great talent. He taught me the difference between, as we spoke before, between who you are and who you really are, or what people perceive you to be and who you really are. But he was always just an outlaw to the management. If he didn't get his way, he was kind of whatever, and they ended up getting stabbed there in Puerto Rico and dying. But he was an inspiration to me as well. He was just what an awesome figure in the ring he was in the arena. Just
so you got along with him pretty well.
I was standing there one time talking, and he was behind me, big 6'9", 6'10". He came across me with a forearm so hard it just goosebumps just jumped all over me. I said, "Wow, that was awesome, man." But Frank was a very smart man, a self-made man. He probably made Abbott a million, and vice versa. They worked together so much.
Like you said, you were working in so many different places at that point. How was it different to go and work for Vince and then be working for Jerry Blackwell?
Well, Jerry Blackwell was fine. He was good as gold. Now, working WCW and working WWF was like night and day. WCW was Bischoff and those guys. They put so much pressure on you to go in the ring that just put a lot of pressure on you. WWF, they didn't care. They fix it. Screw up, they'll fix it. But the point is, they were made you so relaxed, you didn't mess up. And you just let it happen and boom, 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 have a heck of a match. But Vince was always in the gym every day. He was there every time we'd go to, he was in the gym working out with us. He made sure the boys, if Hogan would get an extra inch on his waist, get that off. He dictated what Hogan was going to look like. And kept him squared away. To me, Vince got a lot of heat, but anybody doing any great things is going to have a lot of heat for somebody because, being charismatic. But yeah, he would always treat me well, with a lot of respect, my family with a lot of respect. And I enjoyed thoroughly. Jay Strongbow was doing booking for a lot of the guys for TV, and I knew him from Georgia. Great guy. He lives in Griffin, Georgia. And just, I thoroughly enjoyed the WWF.
Okay.
In fact, one of my last matches there, I got on tape. A fan from Oregon sent it to me with Davey Boy Smith, the British Bulldog, and shortly thereafter he passed away. But yeah, I just enjoyed the New York area.
Going back up just a little bit
Okay.
To your time in the AWA.
Oh, it was great.
Okay. You were tag champs with Jack Hart, Barry Horowitz.
Yeah,
for a
he
little
and
while.
the last time I was there, I was international heavyweight champion. And I worked with Rocky Johnson and had the pile driving, but I hated doing those really dangerous type of moves. But I had the pile driving, 300-pound guy, pick him up, drop on his head, right there with Lance Russell. So I did. Thank the Lord, he came out all right. But Jack and I were the tag team champions. We worked with the Rockers. That was pretty. Jannetty and Shawn Michaels, and had a great time there. Had a really good time.
Anything stand out above the rest?
Well, yeah, I was called Sparkles because I through the years I tried all different type of things as a golden boy and gold stars, paint my body gold, and I don't know, all kind of different things, and I ended up with glitter. And had glitter on, and glitter would be in the guys' houses. It was all over the place. But Bill Dundee called me Sparkles. He still calls me Sparkles, and that's kind of stands out in my mind. But again, Jerry Lawler was probably one of the smartest guys ever in the business. He created Sid Vicious with the hockey mask, but because Jerry Lawler is a cartoonist, and I was working in Georgia not long ago in Columbus, and he came and worked a show with us at whatever it was there in Columbus. And looks better now than he did, and still worked great in the ring. But yeah, I really admire Jerry Lawler.
So you and Jack Hart, how long were y'all tagging together? Well,
kind of funny story. I came home to move family, whatever, around, and I got detained. And New York called him. We were both supposed to go to New York to Vince, and but he went, and I had some situation to take care of, so I didn't get to go. And that's when he came and doing the gimmick on the show, and had a pretty good run there in New York. So we were there as tag team champions for a short time, several months or whatever.
Were you guys close friends at that point, or was it just
we were really opposites, I think, in a lot of ways, but of course we got along well, yeah.
Okay. You were talking earlier about Ultimate Warrior and the bodybuilding type stuff. You were one of the first people to really have kind of a bodybuilder physique. Was that on purpose? Did you want to stand out? Were you into bodybuilding?
Maybe go back a few years. It probably could have been Buddy Rogers. I think Ric Flair mimicked himself after Buddy Rogers because Buddy Rogers, the tan, the blonde hair, just you see him, wow, he's something. Might not know he's something. But in those days, a body and blonde hair was something that people envied and wanted to be like, would get heat. Especially if the wife smiled at you, then you could just really, watch what's going on and really, play it and get a lot of heat out of it. And because it was unusual, because a lot of guys didn't really bodybuild in those days or work out as much as. I was being a small guy. What else I had? That's all I could do. Yeah. To build a character. And I had a good work ethic, so I just worked really hard at it, from 110 pounds to 225, 230, whatever it ended up being. And then Atlas told me when I was gaining weight, Atlas told me one day, it's not what you weigh, it's what you look like you weigh. Dummy. Drop some pounds. Look bigger.
Okay. Where after like the AWA era, what happened after basically?
Well, I went in that midst, I went to Pensacola. And got to know Bob Armstrong even better than I already knew him in the family. I had I think years past when I was still a fireman, I had one of Brad's first matches there in Dothan. And Brad was probably one of the best that's ever been in the ring, especially when he's a Rackner man, was a different deal. But Brad could do anything in the ring. He was just an incredible kid. Never got a real big push, but he was kind of in the middle there. But just a wonderful family. All the brothers, Jesse James with the WWF, all the boys they in the music business or whatever, and Gail, the wife, Bob's wife, just phenomenal. To put up with all those kids so many years. But Bob came real close friends there, and all those experiences were really wonderful there in the Pensacola area.
Okay, you talked earlier about how when you were green in the business and you would have your mentors. At this point, you had been in the business for a while. Is there anybody that you kind of helped along the way that was you were a mentor towards?
Well, probably anybody that would listen. You know, if I'd watch a match and they could see something that would help them, I would interject and totally, constructive criticism. But when you're teaching yourself first. So I'm listening what I'm telling someone else. So I'm listening, so I got to do the same thing. It helps me as well, from a mentor standpoint or a teacher standpoint, to help others. And some listen. If you didn't, I ain't got time.
Is there anybody in particular that you can?
I tell you right now, bring it forward another number of years. Right now, in Fort Valley, he did a presentation on me, a 15, 20-minute documentary. The Chic Donovan on tape for this college class. I look at my phone. I don't know why I can't think of his name. Brain dead, I guess. But been able to mentor. He's taken a lot to heart. This kid, he's a good amateur wrestler. And Paul Warfield is his name. And he's one of those who work in Fort Valley. And really has taken a lot that I've taught him and really brought it to the forefront, and he's become real successful with it. And a lot of the other kids, I remember somebody, Gordon Nelson, he was a heck of a shooter. He put the rings up for WCW later years, but I did something in the ring and he beat me up. Boom, boom, boom. 3 years. It took me 3 years to understand what he told me, what he taught me. I understood it then. Every night after a match, even now, I tell the kids, going home ain't nothing but for going to school on your way home. Evaluate everything you do in the ring. I did as a paramedic. To get better, you have to evaluate. What did I do? What didn't I do? Why was it good? If it's good, don't just say it's good. Why was that match a good match? Or why was it a bad match? Or why was it indifferent? What could I have done to put this and that? Or what could I have done to make it a little bit better? And every night on the way home, I really iterate and really teach. Evaluate every step, every night. I've been 34 years, but still evaluate every match. And now, I can sometimes it take me a week or two, but thinking about it. That's it right there. And I can think, and I use that in the next match.
Okay.
To make it better.
He's talking about 34 years. How do you feel wrestling has changed in that time period? How do you feel about that?
Well, I was, like I said, a firefighter. I built a big home there in Macon, Georgia. I had a family, but I wanted to wrestle because I loved it. It was a family. It was a family sport, or entertainment, as they say today. You could watch it on TV with the whole family around the fireplace, and the old time get a kick out of the old timers. But it was good, healthy fun, or good, healthy entertainment, or sport. And then when ECW came into being, and it came on TV, I got a lot of influence in LaGrange to some degree with the TV and stuff. And I asked them not to play that anymore on TV, and they didn't. All the beer drinking, all the TNA, all the stuff, all the hardcore gaffing and with the razor wire and all that stuff. It was just horrible. Not suiting for family or kids to even watch. All the smoking in the ring, the drinking the beer, and that changed the whole setting of our fan base to more of a blue-collar base. That when Stone Cold came out, one of the hardest working guys in the business, was in New York, drinking the beer, boom, boom, boom. The people ate it up, but it killed off a whole group of people who used to come, a white-collar workers, I guess you could say, to the blue-collar guy that's in the trenches that just ate that up. But it's not something I'd really, and all the women and all the getting nude on the TV and all the stuff. It's better now. It's a little bit better, but it was horrifying for what I gave up and what I believed in, and now watch it. I couldn't watch it. And to get something I wanted to talk about, there's a Pastor Tony as a wrestler, a pastor in Macon, Georgia, that puts on at least 2 Christian shows a month. And he's asked me in the last couple of years to be a part of that, and it's been phenomenal. To be able to go the old school, you got Thunderbolt Pass in there with influence. You got Nikita Koloff, has influence, not so much influence, but in preaching. I preach the salvation. Now, I was a Christian 50 years before I got saved. And there's a lot of difference. So I preach how to get saved, and Nikita brings them into the end. But we can take that old school wrestling that I gave up so much for and take it into the church setting. That is phenomenal. Now, the last Saturday night we were in Griffin, and it was another pastor that wrestled, and he spent 2 weeks fighting against his board of directors. Didn't want wrestling in their church. Didn't want it in the church. But they hadn't seen what result can be out of it until that night. 120 people came to the Lord, made decisions. So, phenomenal. Exciting to see what I used to be a part of come back together again in that setting, in a religious setting, and be successful.
So do you feel like wrestling is in a turn for the better now?
I think even what I've watched on TV is a lot better than it had been in the past. But I think what we're doing in that ministry is phenomenal. Any show I'm a part of is squared away. I guess you could say squared away, but it's good. But yeah, it's just awesome to be able to bring that in and see what the Lord can do through wrestling, through what wrestling is now, through what it used to be, to get people to make commitments to the Lord, get saved, get their kids saved. And it's just phenomenal. It's exciting. I mean, that's the ultimate goal. And I think that's the reason that at 62, going 63 or whatever, that I can still go to the gym. I don't lift 400 pounds on the bench anymore, but I still have a great work ethic. I work hard through motivation for wrestling. And he allows me to be able to stay decently shaped. Aesthetically, looks pretty good. The character still looks good. Even though with all my injuries, the bad fractured back, neck, knees, and whatever, still get in the ring and work at a high level. And he's used me now as a vessel or a disciple for his work. And I think that's the key to my personal success now, and even being here, being able to get on this DVD and talk about my faith.
Now, has Christianity been throughout most of your career? Or
Yeah.
When did
It started when I was conception, from birth.
Yeah.
Dad was a deacon in the church. My mother went to college with Billy Graham, and we didn't have dinner before we had Bible study, or we read the Bible before we went to bed every night. It was a big influence. Sometimes, but then as you grow up, you get away. You go through all your learning times and whatever, and you kind of get away a little bit. But you always come back to those points. But I was a Christian, but I wasn't saved. It wasn't until 5 or 6 years ago I was at the gym working out, and the youth pastor of the church came in at an unusual hour. And I think everything happens for a reason. It just don't happen. And I had a concern about whatever, and we were talking. Next thing I knew, I was on my knees getting saved because it was a doubt. Christianity, being saved is black and white. If you got any doubt about your salvation, you ain't saved. If you are, there's no doubt at all. And it's easy. And all you have to do is say, Father, I'm a sinner. I believe in Jesus Christ. I want Jesus to come into my heart, forgive my sins, and save my soul. And you'll be in the book of Lamb's life from now. Now, you're rewarded in heaven by your good works. But once you're saved, you're saved. You're gonna be in the rapture, going to heaven. And everybody be left in the tribulations and all the stuff we do at church. We have a judgment journey, which goes through all those tribulations, and it's hard.
Now, in your wrestling career, did your Christianity or your faith ever come in conflict to what something a promoter or somebody else or something you didn't feel comfortable with because of your relationship?
That brings up a question. It's not something I quit one, but it wasn't something I went through Christianity
Did it
or
ever
whatever.
cause a conflict?
No, I don't think so. Because like I said, it was only 6 years ago I got saved. I was a Christian. A lot of people are Christians. So I'm a Christian. So what? Don't mean you're saved. So now it could.
Yeah.
Now it would. I wouldn't go out and drink a beer in the ring. I wouldn't go out and smoke a cigarette. I wouldn't go out and explore a female. I wouldn't go along with the program they got going now. That's why I'm so excited about being with Pastor Tony's group. But I work with a lot of other groups too. They're all old-timey, grab a hole, work it, get heat, come back and go home type of matches that are awesome. That they give the people the old, and it's brought back a lot of the old fans of seeing the old school fans I saw in Carrollton, Georgia. We go every couple of weeks, and the fans I saw back in the 70s are back there if they're still living. They're back there watching the matches back like it used to be, and they're grateful. They didn't want to see that mess either. But whether Vince liked it or not, it was selling tickets to that certain group of people. It's merchandising, making money. Sell it. Well, I don't know if he liked it or not, like I said, but it sold tickets, so we're going to do it. We're making money. It's all about money. But life ain't all about money. And it's life after death. Not that that's going to keep him from going to heaven. If you're saved, he's going to heaven. But, I don't know. I don't live a perfect life by any means, but I still have that peace of mind, and that's all we work for in life is peace of mind. You can have everything in the world you want. But Von Erichs had everything in the world, but they didn't have peace of mind apparently because they had an horrible finish.
Yes.
But once you get peace of mind, that's nothing more. That's priceless. Peace of mind, and that it comes under knowing you're saved, knowing being able you can pay your bills, and all the other things about life. Is at peace. Peace of mind. That's the ultimate goal of life. Once you get that, I had it once and I threw it away through my own being thick, stubborn. I was 50 years old before my dad was satisfied with me. And, it took a long time for me to smarten up. And sometimes I was still a little stupid, and, I'm a guy. But I've gotten a lot smarter. My mom and dad have passed away now, but they're still getting smarter. All you kids out there, your mom and dad may be dumb now, but I guarantee you as you get older, they will get more intelligent, and you'll understand what they're telling you now. You'll understand what they're trying to portray to you now. What you're doing, it's just words now, but later on you'll understand when a shoe's on the other foot.
You spoke a minute ago about like the Von Erichs not having peace of mind. A lot of that was with the drugs and all that stuff that happened in the 80s and stuff like that. How do you feel the locker room atmosphere has changed maybe towards today? Do you feel like it's gotten any better?
I got a kid safe. Well, I say I did, Lord. Got a kid safe in the dressing room. Paul Orndorff and I, which I admire greatly, Ricky Steamboat, one of the finest men in the business, we made a pact between the three of us that in the dressing room, you can't tell somebody about what they're talking because they've done it so long. They're just natural. But we could do it. I didn't feel I had enough influence with some of the guys on top as those two guys did. But we made a pact, though, if we watch what we say. If we start to say something, point each other out. So our verbiage was good. And maybe, just maybe, it'll pick up from one guy, pick it up and say, well, those guys are not saying all that stuff. Wow, maybe I'll be like those guys. And then another guy, it'll mushroom, but, start somewhere. And I figured, and I thought it was pretty cool. And it kept us from falling back into that because you're going to become like those whom you associate. I don't care what your background is. If you hang with a dog, you're going to get fleas. Unless you're really careful, unless you just set yourself apart in some kind of way. And when you fall and get all those abnormalities normal, then you're in trouble.
So do you feel like it's gotten better since?
Oh, I had to pay some horrible lessons. I mean, tremendous lessons to learn those lessons. And now I don't mind sharing those lessons. So some kid ain't got to back up and punt 10 times like I did. He can go and build a career a little easier. Wrestling too tried to tell me, but I was too thick. But I think if you got a kid that will listen, if you tell it enough over and over again, he'll pick it up. He'll influence at some point in time. And I enjoy doing that. Now in the ring, I influence them by the old school of wrestling. They want to get up and do all the stuff. I probably did too at one time, and now I grab him, put him back in the hole. Work the hole, dang it! You can feel the people starting to come. You get heat in the hole. Ole Anderson and Gene Anderson did it. Ivan and Smirnoff did it. Tore the house down with an arm bar. Work that arm bar. Back and forth, back and forth, and back and forth. I mean, all the heat you can stand. Ole got cut. You saw he did an interview. He got cut with box cutters and whatever. You know, working an arm bar. Not cheating particularly, but being a tough guy. And Ole liked tough guys. Think about watching his interview. He loved Buzz Sawyer because Buzz Sawyer was a tough guy. And he gave Buzz Sawyer a rope, and he ran a rope out, and he did some stuff that lost his grace with Ole, I think. But now he's passed away, one reason or another. But Ole and I got in a chopping contest one day in the dressing room, and I didn't go through Minnesota as a top amateur wrestler. I wasn't this, that, and the other. Probably, like Brock Lesnar and those really tough guys like Ole was. But we got in a chopping contest, and chopped me, boom, I chopped him back. The skin coming off my chest, but I said, I ain't giving up. I'm telling myself, I ain't. Boom, boom. He finally gave up, and I earned some respect from him at that point. Ole had heat with a lot of guys, but Ole told you like it was. Son, I got a spot for you. I can do this, I can do that. I'll hire you, but I can't do anything for you. Work first match, underneath, whatever. He'd tell you like it was. He wasn't like some of his motors that, we're going to take care of you, son. We're going to take care of you. Smiling at you and shafting you all at the same time. But Ole told me like it was. Now, like I said, he got heat from some guys, but I respected him, especially for that. Like it is. And he taught me how to be a tough guy in the ring. And I got Tito Santana so mad one day, I took him down, boom, tied him up. Boy, you got to fight your way out. You got to wrestle your way out. I tie you up, I ain't going to get up. I tied him, boom, boom, boom. He got so hot he couldn't wrestle his way out of it, I guess. I don't know, but he got hot. But Ole taught me to take the guy down. You wrestle him down. He's got to work his way up. The idea is to beat the guy, pin him, get him down and pin him. The guys today want to get somebody down and pick him up and do something else, do too much stuff. You try to get a guy down, you wrestle him down, you pin him. Guys nowadays forget to pin folks. Thinking about too much stuff.
Do you feel like the legitimacy is kind of lost itself as far as, trying to do too much and that kind of thing?
Way too much. The kids the other night in the match, in Fitzgerald, they did incredible stuff. Incredible stuff. They came back dressing room, I said, guys, totally constructive criticism. Awesome stuff, but the match was horrible. It was a horrible match. And explain why it was a horrible match. They just did stuff. Lucha Libre kind of stuff. It's just an exhibition. And not what wrestling's about. Wrestling's about is like preaching a sermon. It's manipulating emotion to get people here on their feet. Sit back down, sit back, and start it over again. To the other side of the ring. You do the same thing over and over again, and boom, then you pop them on their feet, boom, 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 boom. And that's what wrestling is. I teach the kids that wrestling is about the babyface or the good guy building the joy and the bad guy or the heel stealing it. If somebody runs in your new car, you just bought a new $40,000 car, somebody smashed you in the rear, you're going to have heat with that guy. You're going to have heat with him. You got all this joy, right? And this guy comes, boom, takes your joy. You're ready to kick his behind. The fan feels the same way. You took my boy's joy. No, we're going to get you, man. Then boom, 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 he's gone. But you steal that joy. Now, I've been in cases, in matches where the babyface didn't know how to build the joy, came in flat, didn't have a clue. Now the heel has to make the joy. Boom, boom, boom. Give him a little bit, then beat him up. You make the joy for the people. But people got to have joy in that match, one way or another. And they like the tough guys. That gives them joy. You don't have the opportunity to do a lot of manipulating, but boom, they still give them joy. But the bayface don't build it, you take it. But the bayface smart enough, I do a lot of stuff without doing nothing to try to get the emotion up. As a good guy. And a bad guy, I get emotion up by how great I am. But then you just steal that, you get the guy, and then you snatch the deal away from him. But like I said before, the job of a heel ain't to cheat. It's to out wrestle the babyface. If the babyface can't out wrestle me, I want to get me 2 points. I did it on TV the other day. I got heat, I guess. Guy won't book me now, but took him down. He was supposed to be a champion or whatever. Took him down, and just the new kid's lack of training or lack of understanding. Took him down, floated over, and he should reverse the arm back. Get me in a hammerlock, whatever. Wrestle himself out. But he just lay there. So I just spun around, got up 2 points. I don't guess he liked it, but whatever. But what else to do? I ain't going to pick him up. But he should wrestle himself back off the floor. That's fine. Wrestle him up, then we're going to have a match. But they don't understand wrestling, what the wrestling really is, because they've worried about doing too much stuff. But get back to basics for the wrestling, which, again, Pastor Tony, phenomenal. Get basics back into the church. And that's where it's at.
Okay, there was some stuff we just kind of briefly skimmed over, and just wanted to see if there's anybody you left out that you would like to mention to make sure you get on the video.
Well, if I may take this piece of paper, I wrote some names down. Ox Baker, saw him a while ago. Ox, incredible. We'd be sitting in the airport, and he'd be, boisterous, being a big heel, blah, blah, blah. Next thing you know, he's got a little old lady sitting in his lap, and they're buying pictures. On the airplane, the same way. Ox painted his toenails red. I just saw his wife that was killed in an accident, but he painted his toenails red for her, and he doesn't do it. He's married again. But when I saw him on TV the first time, I guess 73, whatever. Ooh, I'd hate to see that guy in the alley. The very first guy who had a real gimmick. His face was a gimmick. He did the movie Back to New York or whatever with the pitchfork guy, you know. But what a guy he is. Ox Baker, phenomenal. We worked close together in the IWA and in Florida and different places. Again, Ole, Ivan, as I mentioned, Stan Hansen. We made a lot of trips together. Stan Hansen was a great champion. Great athlete. Made a lot of money in Japan. Good man. He is a good-hearted man, as good as I know. Like I said, we made a lot of trips together. We had a lot of movies, waiting on the shows and whatever. But Rocky Johnson did the favor for me in Memphis. But he booked me in Hawaii. And just a good-looking guy. And I don't know The Rock, but usually the acorn don't fall too far from the tree. And watching The Rock work in the movies, and he's so diversified, he can play one part and he can make a tough guy. He can play a sissy or whatever. And he had to be a lot like Rocky Johnson. Like I said, he shouldn't be, they're pretty close in personality. I think that's the success and respect that Rock had for himself in the business that made him where he's at today, and through Rocky Johnson. And Peter Maivia was his granddad, and they had a place, boogie board place on the beach in Waikiki. But anyway, Scott Irwin got Pebbles and I together some years ago. The first guy that did a superplex. And that's one thing today, guys want to do so many finish moves for high spots. Then what are you going to do at the end? Get a small package? It don't make sense. Boom, boom. He did a superplex because that was his finish. Off the top rope, I took probably the first one. Devastating. And he did a leg drag you don't see anymore. Scott Irwin did a leg drag that was so beautiful. It was like an arm drag, except it was for the leg. And Ric Flair. Flair to me, I don't know if I were mentioned today or not, but he's Mr. NWA. He's the man. He'd come in all the different territories and work an hour match every night with all the top guys and the top baby faces and just working.
Flair brings up an interesting point. I've heard in other conversations that Dusty, when he took over as Book in Georgia, he fired you, said you were too close to resemblance of Ric Flair. Is there any truth?
Was that the conversation?
That was, I believe that was at George South.
Well, I've heard the conversation that there was, when Georgia Championship Wrestling closed, they put on a wall. I've heard this from Tommy Rich. They just put a list of guys. These guys are staying. The rest of you guys get your bags.
My name was the first to stay.
Okay.
We'd done a thing in Hawaii. I was supposed to come back, and it was nationally known. And he wanted me to do something I disagreed with, so I quit. It was a bad move on my part. It wasn't something I'd already done 100 times before, but I don't know. didn't want to do it. And so I worked a notice. He sent me a slip later on, a few weeks later, or whatever, long, a month or so later. And but I was his main boy. He took care of me. He flew me when I was a fireman to Tampa every week. I was off in the firehouse on Wednesdays to do that TV. Took care of me, flew me back, and that was really a dumb thing. That was a big mistake on my part because Dusty's one of the two smartest guys in the business. Kevin Sullivan now is there too, but Dusty's still over. Dusty knew how to get over. Dusty he was very arrogant, egotistical. Hey, Dusty, just the truth. It's a shoot interview. If somebody came to Omni to do an interview on me or whomever else it was, if he went for Dusty, it didn't happen. Tell you about Flair's attitude. 4 Horsemen, the world champion, 4 Horsemen. What's this deal? Dusty's back in the spotlight with the boar by himself. Flair's in the 4 Horsemen with the world champion. What is that deal? It doesn't matter to Flair. Just give him money. It doesn't matter. Don't matter anyway. If you follow what I'm saying. Flair should have been in the spot by himself. He's the world champion. Not in a tag team. That could be an opinion. That's the truth. I think, anyway. But that's how guys get themselves over. That's smart. That's just being plain smart. That's living the magazine. But Dusty came. I saw some old pictures of Dusty. He was paralyzed as a kid, or had polio. Probably polio because he's my age. I think I'm 46. 62. I think he's 64, whatever. A couple years older. But I think he must have been polio as a kid. One of the fans had everything from his whole life in a book. So he overcame a lot of stuff. Smart man. He knew how to get over, and he's still over today. And what I said ain't down in Dusty Rhodes by any means. So I respect him highly. And he had a big feud with his son. I think that's how Gold Dust came about. Again, opinion. Trying to kill off his son, but his son's such a great talent. Didn't kill him, he got him over. Justin's one of the best I've ever been in the ring with. He and Blackjack's kid, Barry Windham, together, probably the best babyface tag team I ever saw, other than maybe Jerry and Ted Oates. Phenomenal 2 kids. Big feud for years, still do. But those 2 guys, they were just phenomenal in the ring, and had a lot of respect for the underneath guys too. And again, Dusty's smart, and what do you say? I respect him. Still got heat with him, I guess, because he didn't have much conversation with me. He wouldn't book me, so I assume I do. I don't know. Maybe I don't. Maybe I do. But in the match with Flair, I watched it the other day. It's sold on the internet. And he's talking about, well, if I was in the ring, I'd be doing this. And all of a sudden, I started doing what he said. I said, whatever. It was a good match, and he played it over and over because Flair did a deal, right? Trying to kill me, I assume. That's opinion. But I still respect him. I still respect Dusty. He's a great guy, smart man. And he's been around for a lot of years, and he's still there. He's still on top. So you can't,
I kind of interrupted you when you were going through your list. If you wanted to
but that's fine. Another great guy was Gordon Soley. Articulate. So articulated that with every wrestling move could ever be imagined. He either made up a name for it or he described it anyway in his commentating. And it ain't an easy job. Commentating is not easy. I've tried it. I've done it in matches and whatever. And it's a learned profession. It's a lot harder than it looks. But he always did a great job, and we were real personable through Florida and Georgia. Lance Russell. What can you say about Lance Russell, the announcer in Memphis? Laid back. It's awesome. Great guy, and just inspiration to me. And I'd like to thank some of the promoters. I wrote some names down here that came to mind. Fred Ward, bless his soul. Columbus, Georgia, 8:15 every Wednesday night. Great wrestling there in all Trump, paid well. Jim Crockett, North Carolina, on the map, one of the major territories. I'm sure they gave up a lot. They made money, I'm sure, but they had to spend a lot of time spend a lot of time and effort making a territory happen, and go with a lot of different personalities. A lot of bull crap they got to put up with. from owner standpoint, because I've got heat. Somebody's yelling at you all the time about something. But anyway, stuck with it, made a great territory, gave guys a place to work. Jim Barnett, he eventually was taken over. He got taken over in Georgia. I won't iterate on that one, but and he went to New York and was part of the office in New York. But he paid me. He paid us extra. He must have been 10% of what we made just so we could stay in nice motel rooms instead of having a Gila mattress and 4 guys on a bed or something. But just those guys, I just want to just think that they put up with a bunch of attitudes that gave us a place to work and show our talents. And as far as talent goes, I had a few titles in my career. I was the IWA World Heavyweight Champion, and the Southern Heavyweight Champion there in Memphis. I was real proud of that. And the International Heavyweight Champion that I got from Rocky Johnson. And one of the others I really enjoyed was the NWA World Junior Heavyweight Champion. Tommy Rogers, I think, was here today. I heard his name. We had a lot of battles. And I was able to get the belt from him. And, I learned a lot. In fact, in Pensacola, the TV would come to the first match. And the old veterans wanted to work, they made us, in the first match, let's do all the work. And then the old veterans like Bob and those guys, they didn't do a whole lot because we did it all in the beginning. But we worked our behinds off in the first match, always. And because we had that feud going and finally got the belt. But the TV would come down, and they would go back and make fun of wrestling. It would go boom, boing, bing, boing, have all the noises every time, boing, 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 all the stuff, and trying to make fun of it. But actually, it probably helped it. And then David Schultz, tough guy, renegade, had busted a head on one night, and the guy was interviewing him, and the guy was talking bad about wrestling. Said, "Oh, it's junk." Boom, got blood all over his shirt. Then he tried to sue. He sued David a whole bunch, but then he had on TV the case of the bloody shirt. But anyway, that TV there, but tried to really slam wrestling. I actually put it over. But everywhere I went, met a lot of great people through our career. And again, Pastor Tony, thank the Lord for Pastor Tony bringing the George South right here in the Carolinas. He's doing the same thing. George South and I talked to him on the phone a while back, and I think I was an inspiration in his career. Something happened in the ring, and something he messed up on or whatever, and the other guy was so mad about it. I said, "Man, look here, he's just starting out. Listen, give him a break." He had John 3:16 on the back of his trunks. It was a Bible scripture to go in the ring. Can't do that. That's the beginning of the new age. You can't wear that, but you can go out there and put FU and all that stuff on your stuff. What's the deal with that? But now we're bringing it back to the church, the old school. But he thanks me for taking up for him in the dressing room when we have a conversation. But a good guy. He's bringing that faith into the spectrum of wrestling, which is phenomenal. I get so excited, just really excited talking about it.
Do you have like one memory that maybe stands out above the rest?
Well, it was quite a few. I guess just the people I met along the way and the friends I made along the way and the inspiration they were able to. I think even now at the gym, with having the notoriety, which the internet has really rejuvenated my career as much or more than it was 20 years ago, and has recreated a whole new group of fans. Of the younger group now is back like the other group that's already passed away and gone away. Now we got a whole new that knows me, whatever, from the internet. And able to, from what I've learned from different people, Bob Armstrong and Ole and all these different characters, and culminate together in a personality, and able to use all those positives that I think with all the learning processes, and use those to share with the youngsters just in the gym or at school, teaching school or whatever, and they go and get inspiration from it. I think that probably giving up a career and being retired now with a whole deal makes it all worthwhile to be able to have that influence and use that knowledge I learned from all these different people. Just Stan Hansen, I can go names, that really influenced me to help me make better decisions nowadays, and use wrestling as an influence, not as a weapon or not as how great I am, but as an influence to for Christianity or for getting kids to help do better in school or whatever it may be. And it's just been a great career. Even better now, having more fun now than ever before, and being able to leave a legacy That's all I'm doing now. Leading a legacy of the old school that I learned from Ole, learned from Stan Hansen, learned from Bill Eadie, Ray Stevens. It goes back and back even further. Yak, yak, yak. Boy-headed guy. Ended up being a manager or something later on. But Freddie Blassie. Those guys laid a foundation for the guys I learned from. And then we laid the foundation for people like Terry Taylor. The crew that came after us was the crew, and that was the last crew. And from there on, it went to what we know today is on TV, which is better, like I said, better now than it was there for a short time. I think through the early 90s, middle 90s, it got pretty horrible. In the beginning of the 2000s, but now it's better. Thank goodness.
I know you're involved with the church and all that stuff. Is there anything else that you're into right now at this point in your life?
Or anything you wish to, website or anything you'd like to plug right now?
Well, yes, sir. I'm glad you mentioned that. There's a website. It's poetry, poetry.com. And it comes up, and you can put my name, Chic Donovan, in, and it goes some of my poetry that I write. Some was generic that I wrote for other people. I was hired, or he wouldn't say the word hired, but I was, can't think of the term now, but I asked to write for different people, some fans or old fans or whatever. But there's a lot of inspirational stuff on. One of them, Not the End, was one of my favorite. It's not the end, it's just a new beginning after death. If you're a Christian, if you're saved, it's all just a new beginning, people go to work, horses still eat grass. It's not the end, it's just a new beginning, And things about faith. Have faith in Almighty God, He'll see you through it all with all the prayers, and I can't remember all the things, but and it just leaves a certain serenity with people, I think, and it keeps that word hope. If you really, you'll have hope again if you've lost it, I think, Phil. And I love writing. I wrote some books about life and things, and that have been since lost, but simple, but all about life. Life's a wrestling match is life, like I said, conception, good times, bad times, all the way through to the end. I was asked once, was MMA, did it hurt wrestling? And I contemplated for several hours. It might have been the next day, it dawned on me. No. People pay $140 for a seat, it may be over in 30 seconds. They get out and do whatever. Tough guys, but it's not telling a story. Wrestling, go out, if you're properly trained, and get all that animosity. When I was a paramedic, I could go out as a heel in the ring and get all the animosity out of people by moving them up, sitting there up and down and doing all the stuff, and get that through telling a story in the ring, and get all the animosity out of them. And it made me feel so good to get a knife pulled on me or maced or something, that I knew I did my job and got the animosity out of them they've had all week. The kids can't pay the bills. The kids are doing bad in school, whatever. They got a lot of problems. But I go out there in my 20 what minutes it is, from a still, quiet auditorium, and get that emotion and get all out of them. Oh, what a job we've been able to just do through learned and make them feel better about themselves when they leave. And it's awesome.
Is there any last words you would like to leave us with?
Well, boys and girls, it's not something new, but say your prayers, take your vitamins, and work hard, and nothing can stop you. Again, say your prayers, take your vitamins, and have a good work ethic and a good attitude, and you're unstoppable. Thank you very much, guys, from High Spots, and just been my pleasure. I don't know how much time we took up, but hopefully maybe we've said a little something that can inspire someone. But guys, just go out there and work hard in school and get that education, and then think about wrestling or whatever you want to do. But get the education first. It's very, very important. It's something that no one can take away from you, is that it's something you work for. Again, thank you very much, and peace.
We really appreciate that. Thank you.